भूतकल्पना जाला गम्भीरोदारमूर्तये नमः समन्तभद्राय समन्तस्फुरणत्विषे. So again we can start with the refuge and 4 immeasurables, and we can say them together. Buddham cha dharmam cha ganottamam cha yavaddibodhim sharanam prayami dhanadikrityaischa kritairmayebhir buddho bhaveyam jagato hitaya. Buddham cha dharmam cha ganottamam cha yavaddibodhim sharanam prayami dhanadikrityaischa kritairmayebhir buddho bhaveyam jagato hitaya. Buddham cha dharmam cha ganottamam cha yavaddibodhim sharanam prayami dhanadikrityaischa kritairmayebhir buddho bhaveyam jagato hitaya. Sattva sukhena samprayujyeran sattva dukkena viyujyeran sattva sukhena na viyujyeran sattva hitam labheran sattva sukhena samprayujyeran sattva dukkena viyujyeran sattva sukhena na viyujyeran sattva hitam labheran sattva sukhena samprayujyeran sattva dukkena viyujyeran sattva sukhena na viyujyeran sattva hitam labheran. And now we can go through the verses we have done so far, and once again, since these verses are just a little bit more challenging than the refuge prayer, we do it by repeating, meaning that I say them one time and you repeat them one time. Do you all have the page which is missing? Okay. Sugatan sasutan sadharmakayan pranipatya darato khilanscha vandyan sugatatmaja samvaravataram kathayishyami yathagamam samasat nahi kinchidapurvamatra vachyam na ca sangranthana kaushalam mamasti ataeva na me parartha chinta swamano vasayitum krutam mayedam mamata vadanena yati vriddhim kushalam bhavayitum prasadavegah atamat samadhatureva pashyed aparopyena matopi sarthakoyam kshana sampadiyam sudurlabha pratilabdha purushartha sadhani yadinatra vichintyate hitam punarapyesha samagamah kutah ratrau yatha megha ghanandhakare vidyukshanam darshayati prakasham बुद्धानुभावेन तथा कदाचित् लोकस्य पुण्येषु मतिः क्षणं स्यात् तस्मात् शुभं दुर्बलमेव नित्यम् बलं तु पापस्य महत्सु घोरम् तज्जीयतेऽन्येन शुभेन केन सम्बोधिचित्तं यदि नाम न स्यात् कल्पाननल्पान् दृष्टं मुनीन्द्रैर्हितमेतदेव यतः सुखेनैव सुखं प्रवृद्धम् उत्प्लावयत्यप्रमितान् जनौघान् भवदुःखशतानि तर्तु कामैर् अपि सत्त्वव्यसनानि हर्तु कामैः बहुसौख्यशतानि भोक्तु कामैर् न विमोच्यं हि सदैव बोधिचित्तम् भवचारकबन्धनो वराकः सुगतानां सुत उच्यते क्षणेन स नरामरलोकवन्दनीयो भवति स्मोदित एव बोधिचित्ते अशुचिप्रतिमामिमां गृहीत्वा जिनरत्नप्रतिमां करोत्यनर्घाम् रसजातमतीव वेदनीयम् सुदृढं गृह्णत बोधिचित्तसंज्ञम् सुपरीक्षितमप्रमेयधीभिर् बहुमूल्यं जगदेकसार्थबाहैः गतिपत्तनविप्रवासशीलाः सुदृढं गृह्णत बोधिचित्तरत्नम् कदलीव फलं विहाय याति क्षयमन्यत् कुशलं हि सर्वमेव सततं फलति क्षयं न याति प्रसवत्येव तु बोधिचित्तवृक्षः कृत्वापि पापानि सुदारुणानि यदाश्रयादुत्तरति क्षणेन शूराश्रयेणेव महाभयानि नाश्रीयते तत्कथमज्ञसत्त्वैः युगान्तकालानलवन्महान्ति पापानि यन्निर्दहति क्षणेन यस्यानुशंसानमितानुवाच मैत्रेयनाथः सुधनाय धीमान् तद्बोधिचित्तं द्विविधम् विज्ञातव्यं समासतः बोधिप्रणिधिचित्तं च बोधिप्रस्थानमेव च गन्तुकामस्य गन्तुश्च यथा भेदः प्रतीयते तथा भेदो नयोर्ज्ञेयो यथा संख्येन पंडितैः बोधिप्रणिधिचित्तस्य संसारेऽपि फलं महत् न त्वविच्छिन्न पुण्यत्वं यथा प्रस्थानचेतसः यतः प्रभृत्यपर्यन्त सत्वधातु प्रमोक्षणे समाददाति तच्चित्तम् अनिवर्त्येन चेतसा ततः प्रभृति सुप्तस्य प्रमत्तस्याप्यनेकशः अविच्छिन्नाः पुण्यधाराः प्रवर्तन्ते नभः समाः इदं सुबाहुपृच्छायां सोपपत्तिकमुक्तवान् हीनाधिमुक्तिसत्त्वार्थं स्वयमेव तथागतः शिरशूलानि सत्त्वानां नाशयामीति चिन्तयन् अप्रमेयेन पुण्येन गृह्यते स्म हिताशयः किमुता प्रमितं शूलम् एकैकस्य जिहीर्षतः अप्रमेयगुणं सत्त्वम् एकैकं च चिकीर्षतः कस्य मातुः पितुर्वापि हिताशंसेयमीदृशी देवतानां ऋषीणां वा ब्रह्मणां वा भविष्यति तेषामेव च सत्त्वानां स्वार्थेऽप्येष मनोरथः नोत्पन्नपूर्वस्वप्नेऽपि परार्थे सम्भवः कुतः सत्त्वरत्नविशेषोऽयम् अपूर्वो जायते कथम् यत्परार्थाशयोऽन्येषां न स्वार्थेऽप्युपजायते जगदानन्दबीजस्य जगद्दुःखौषधस्य च चित्तरत्नस्य यत्पुण्यं तत्कथं हि प्रमीयताम् हिताशंसनमात्रेण बुद्धपूजा विशिष्यते किं पुनः सर्वसत्त्वानां सर्वसौख्यार्थमुद्यमात्. I think this is where we stopped. So let me offer once again a summary. I do this every time. I know it's a repetition, but nevertheless, we can get an idea where we are in this particular part of a text. So, the first verse is the Mangalacharana, the auspicious beginning, which consists of an act of homage to the three jewels and all worthy of salutation, and also an indication of a subject matter, which is the Sugatatmaja Samvaravatara, which means the same as Bodhicharyavatara or Bodhisattva-charyavatara, which is how to enter, descend, or engage in the vows or practices of the Bodhisattvas who are the Buddha's son. And he's going to tell us in accordance with the Buddhist text and in brief. Then we have some verses which tell us the prayojana, the purpose of this treatise. And here Arya Shantideva explains that he is not speculating that others are going to benefit, because after all there's nothing new to be said, and he doesn't have great skills in composition, but he's doing this for the sake of influencing his own mind. And then he tells us more precisely how that may happen, which is the force of his disposition to practice virtue, to practice what is wholesome, is going to increase by doing this. If furthermore there is somebody with a similar inner disposition, a similar basic constitution as himself, and if that person sees this text, then that too gives it an additional purpose. So this part indicates the subject matter as well as the purpose. Then we have something of an introduction to the main topic. We have a verse which makes us reflect on the precious opportunity that we have. So we have a life in the higher realms, endowed with the causes and conditions to practice the Dharma and develop Bodhicitta, and that is very rare. It's extremely difficult to obtain. We should reflect on this benefit and also seize that opportunity, otherwise it might not come back again for a very, very long time. And now the example is the night, very dark night. We don't see anything. The night is very long. Just for a very brief moment we see everything thanks to a sudden flash of lightning. Similarly, sometimes thanks to the influence, the positive influence of the Buddhas, a person's mind might turn towards virtue. So in accordance to this comparison, virtue or goodness is always weak, and the strength of our accumulated negative karma is always very strong, because it's from beginningless samsara. And therefore, which other kind of merit is going to defeat this non-virtue if it is not bodhicitta? So from this you can see that we have introduced a very important theme in this chapter. Bodhicitta produces great merit. Then we have further verses telling us how precious it is. First point, the Buddhas themselves reflected for a very long time, and they found that bodhicitta is the only real benefit, and it rescues immeasurable masses of beings, and we go from happiness to happiness by doing that. And I think you will remember that on that occasion I mentioned this point raised in the commentary, that actually we know the bodhisattva path is very long and it involves lots of hardship, especially in terms of dana. The dana that the bodhisattvas do includes dana of even one's own limbs. But, as the commentator explains, for advanced bodhisattvas, that too is only a cause of happiness. So it's just from happiness to happiness. Then we have a verse which stresses that bodhicitta should be taken up for 3 different purposes. It accomplishes 3 different purposes. It accomplishes liberation, so going beyond suffering. It accomplishes also removing the suffering of others, and it even accomplishes abhyudaya, which means happiness within samsara. Why? Because it's great merit. Same point. What's the result of great merit? Main result within samsara is that we don't go to the lower realms. So even from that perspective, it is convenient to develop bodhicitta. And the commentator explains that this particular verse can refer to 3 different people, 3 different types of people, or just the same person who wants to accomplish all 3 purposes. The next verse stresses that actually bodhicitta has a strong transformative power in one moment, so immediately, which means what happens the very moment we develop bodhicitta, we change our situation within samsara as being just somebody who's a wretched, miserable person within the prison of existence, bound by the mental defilement, to being someone called son or daughter of the Buddhas, and worthy of veneration not just from humans but even from deities. So this is the power of bodhicitta in just one moment. The next verse stresses the power of bodhicitta over time. So what bodhicitta does over time in terms of a long-term result is that it takes up an impure frame, meaning our ordinary body, and eventually transforms it like a magical potion does with a base metal into the most precious jewel body of a Buddha. So the other verse was telling us the benefit in one instant, and this verse tells us the benefit as the final result. Then bodhicitta is compared to the most precious jewel in a metaphor of sentient beings being like merchants. Merchants who go from one realm of existence to another realm of existence and buy these and that experiences through their good and bad karma. So this particular jewel of bodhicitta has been examined to be very, very valuable by Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. The next example is the one of the Bodhicitta tree, which is compared to the tree of a plantain tree. So any other virtue gives birth to a fruit only once and then disappears, just like a plantain tree. Bodhicitta is a special tree which keeps on giving results. And here the important point made by the commentary is that this refers to the application of the bodhicitta of dedication when we do an act of virtue. That joins bodhicitta to the direction of Buddhahood. So since if we join it to this dedication towards Buddhahood, bodhicitta produces a virtue which will not be destroyed until Buddhahood. The next verse compares bodhicitta to a hero, a very powerful person that one resorts to, and in that very moment, when one resorts to that very powerful person, one is able to avoid very great dangers. And we are in very great danger because we have accumulated who knows what negative karma, and if we have accumulated who knows what negative karma, we don't know where we're going to go when we die. We have no certainty, and therefore bodhicitta is our hero. If we resort to bodhicitta, we can avoid these terrible results on negative karma. The next half verse emphasizes the same idea through another metaphor, the metaphor of the fire at the end of a world cycle that burns out all the desire realm, not even leaving ashes. And bodhicitta can in one moment burn even very, very great papa, very great sin or non-virtue. So there, you remember there was a discussion. You remember? There was an objection. How is that possible? The Buddha said that the karma that we have done is never destroyed. And then we found that the commentator offered 3 different solutions. Either we take it that it's not really burned, but rather its efficacy is disappears in the ocean of merit that is bodhicitta, or we take it that it is really burnt, because when the Buddha said that karma does not disappear without experiences its result, it referred only to people who do not have upaya. They do not have this special method of bodhicitta. So if we have that special method, actually we can burn it. And the third opinion is that actually all of these refers only to the karmas of non-fixed maturation. The others have to be somehow experienced. And then he also mentioned that Maitreya, the future Buddha Maitreya, spoke of the great qualities of bodhicitta in the Gandavyuha to Sudhana. And there were a few other similes that were given by the commentator quoting the sutra to tell us that bodhicitta is very precious. Then, with verse 15, he introduces a slightly different theme, which is, it gives us a subdivision of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is of 2 types, the bodhicitta of aspiration and the bodhicitta of actual setting forth. And the difference between these 2 is like someone who wishes to go somewhere and somebody else who actually starts moving towards that destination. The next verses tell us about the merit that we obtain from bodhicitta, also subdividing it into these 2 types. So even the bodhicitta of aspiration gives very, very great merit. And on that occasion, the 2 similes that were given were the Vajra, the diamond. It's still the best substance, even when we don't put it into a very decorated jewel. And the other, well, not really a simile, the other one is a story that the Buddha told to a king, that even if he's too busy to actually engage in the actual perfections, he should constantly be mindful and develop the bodhicitta of aspiration. The bodhicitta of setting forth, however, gives even greater merit, and this merit is each and every moment. So, if one develops the bodhicitta of setting forth, actually practicing the perfections, even when that person is not thinking about it, so let's say the person is sleeping, the person is fainted, the person is completely distracted, still, each moment, some infinite masses of merit are produced, streams of merit which are as vast as the sky, moment by moment. Now, verse 20 mentions that it is the Buddha himself who said this. Where did he say this? Subbaho Prachayam, the sutra of the questions of Subbaho. How did he say it? Offering some reasoning. And to whom did he say it? He said it to those people who have faith or inclination towards the lower vehicles. More specifically, the commentator explained that this refers to people of non-fixed gotra. So those people who might opt for Shravaka and Pratyeka Buddha practice, or they might opt for Bodhisattva practice according to the conditions. So for those people, the Buddha offered some encouragement to take up Bodhicitta. And the actual upapatti, the actual reasoning, is offered in the other verses, which say that even if somebody just wishes to remove the headaches of a few sentient beings, that person is obtaining very, very, very great merit, immeasurable merit. Then what to say if somebody wants to remove the suffering of each and every sentient being and wants to make them endowed with infinite virtues, each and every one of them? So this, in terms of the intention, how vast this intention is, highlights the kind of immeasurable merit that one obtains from Bodhicitta. Then we have some verses which stress that this merit is exceptional in terms of how rare it is. So, verse 23 tells us that if we reflect about it, usually not even one's mother or father or deities or seers or brahmas, who are deities in very high positions, have that kind of wish to benefit. Why don't they have that kind of wish to benefit? Because they don't have that wish for liberation even for themselves. How can they have it for others? It's unlikely that it will be born for others, even in a dream. So this I mentioned that also implicitly tells us that in order to develop bodhicitta, we also have to develop the wish to get out of samsara. And that also explains why the bodhisattva vow is based on first taking the pratimoksha vow. The next verse also asks, how is this exceptional jewel of being born, who has a wish for others that others do not even have for themselves? Then the next verse actually is about the result of bodhicitta. Bodhicitta is is the seed for the bliss or joy of the world. So abhyudaya, the happiness within samsara. And also it is the medicine to remove the suffering of the world, nishreyasa. So the ultimate liberation. So in that sense, bodhicitta is capable of bestowing the twofold types of aims of sentient beings. So how are we going to measure its merit? The next verse tells us that just the bodhicitta of aspiration surpasses worshipping the Buddhas. What to say of the bodhicitta of setting forth? And then there was this example from a sutra which says that if somebody were to fill as many Buddha fields as there are pebbles in the river Ganga, fill them with precious jewels, all the most precious substances, and offer these to all the Buddhas. So you take first person, second person just folds one's hand and turns the mind towards Buddhahood. The second person gets more merit. So just by this. So through this example, we can understand how practicing bodhicitta surpasses even puja to the Buddhas. And worship of the Buddhas is great merit. So this is to say that bodhicitta has the best possible merit that we can imagine. So this is where we are. Now we have 3 verses which are closely related. Now we can read verse 28. Dukkhameva bhidhavanti dukkha nissaranashayah sukhechayeva sammohat swasukham gnanti shatruvat. Dukkhameva bhidhavanti dukkha nissaranashayah sukhechayeva sammohat swasukham gnanti shatruvat. This verse describes the nature of people within samsara. So what do? They run just after suffering. So they run towards suffering. While actually what they want to do is to avoid suffering. So while their wish is not to have suffering, they end up running straight towards suffering. And just with a wish towards happiness, due to their own delusion, they destroy their own happiness just like an enemy would. So what does this mean? This means that while we are looking for ways to remove certain types of suffering, such as the suffering of being hungry or thirsty, whatever is giving them suffering at that moment, they try to obtain those things, and they do so by different types of unwholesome karmas, different types of unwholesome activities, such as, for example, killing, let's say. And by doing so, eventually they cause their own suffering. They think that they are going out of suffering. They actually trying to reduce their own suffering, but in fact, they end up going directly towards the suffering of falling down in naraka, in the hells, and experiencing the tremendous vedana, the tremendous physical suffering of the hells. I think this is kind of obvious. Like, for example, if we observe carefully regarding killing, not even all religions agree that it's a problem. If you think about it. I'm not talking about killing humans. But for many philosophies, killing animals is okay. It's actually an acceptable way to satisfy one's hunger. So this is an example. If somebody has delusion, they want to satisfy one's hunger, they might think that if they go hunting, it's perfectly okay. If they go fishing, it's perfectly okay. You can see actually that people even go to fishing holidays. So it's not considered bad at all by many people. Okay, in that case, it's not even for hunger. That case is just entertainment. But you can see that if you extend it not just to pranatipata, to killing, if you extend it to the other types of unwholesome behavior, then it becomes even more subtle. And many people ultimately are involved in a certain amount of non-virtue, which they're doing in order to avoid suffering, in order to satisfy their hunger, etc., etc. So, for example, if we are merchants it is pointed out in the Buddhist teachings that that's a very difficult, it's a very difficult job if we want to be virtuous in terms of our speech. Mrishavada. Why? We can exaggerate a bit the value of our product. If we do that, that's lying, actually. Most of the advertisement that we see, I was about to say on TV, but nobody watches TV now, so maybe on the internet, whichever advertisement we see, usually they exaggerate the value of that product in many, many different ways. They suggest directly or indirectly that if you become associated with that product, you will become kind of a cooler person, maybe more handsome, more attractive, more socially successful. All of that is lying. Actually, all of that is straight non-virtue of speech. So this is not as obvious as the case of killing. But if we observe, it is some amount of non-virtue. And we can see that, in fact, many of our activities, what we can aim at usually is to reduce our non-virtue. It's very hard to completely eradicate our non-virtue. Many of our activities, because of our general condition, might involve some amount of non-virtue. Sometimes we know it already because we have carefully read what is said in the Buddhist teachings. Like when we read, if we read the 10 paths of unwholesome karma in great detail, then I think most people, I mean, I don't know, maybe you don't have that problem, I don't know, but many people feel that, yeah, I do this, I do this, I do this, even on a regular basis. Some of them are quite subtle. Like even if we take up certain physical postures and certain tone of our voice, etc., to give a certain image of ourselves to others, that falls under line. And most people do it. So you see, being completely free of non-virtue is not very easy. And when we do those non-virtues, very often we do it because we want to avoid a certain type of suffering. This is the point here. So since actually teaching the details of non-virtue is something that the ones who can do it perfectly are the Buddhas. So usually sentient beings are not even aware of exactly how non-virtues work, and therefore while they think that they're reducing their suffering and that is their wish, in fact they're running straight towards more suffering. This is the point. I've just elaborated on the adi, which means etc., because the commentator said pranatipata adibihi. Adi means starting from. So pranatipata, is killing, is the first. Even when we take the Panchashila, is refraining from killing. But you see, even killing is, even if we kill a mosquito, it's killing. So it's not just when we kill human beings. So even that is very subtle. And in some cases, well, there are cases where maybe we can't avoid it. Like when we take certain medicines to cure certain of our illnesses, we might be killing lots of very small sentient beings. So did we actually develop some non-virtue? Probably. So you see, it's very, very difficult to be completely free from non-virtue. Okay, and then the example he gives is the example of moths. If you look, if you observe what happens at night, if you put, and this is clearer if you have a lamp which is not an electric lamp. if you have a lamp which has a flame, like a candle, then what will the moth do? It will go straight into the flame. And the moth doesn't have a clear idea that that will cause it to be burnt. But we can observe that moths do precisely that. And this is exactly what most people in the world are doing. They run towards something that is going to burn them. And therefore, just wishing for happiness, they destroy their own happiness, just like an enemy would destroy their own happiness. If we ask, how so? How do they do that? How do they destroy their own happiness? Well, the answer is because of delusion. Because they do not have a perfect awareness of how to obtain benefit and how to avoid harm because of some mental distortion. So, it is said that this actually, I think, is a reference to Dharmakirti. Dharmakirti, I mentioned this master. He's the author of the verse that I recite at the beginning. And one of the things he said is, Samyak Jnana Purvika Sarva Purushartha Siddhi, which means the accomplishment of all human aims is preceded by right knowledge. So, when we have right knowledge, we know what to take up and what to discard. So, the first thing that the Buddhas will teach is what we should take up and what we should discard. And an example, very important example, is the 10 unwholesome karmas. So it is worth to read about the 10 unwholesome karmas often, also in detail, and trying to understand the details of those karmas. And this way, the more we understand them, the more we can make even our discipline finer. We can have a more refined discipline and improve it. Of course, it's a very slow process because it depends from our habits, but I think it is really worth. They sound very simple. They sound like common sense. Sometimes it is said, the Dharma in brief is not to harm others. So we can also understand it in this way. But sometimes it's also useful to see the details because they can offer very valuable advice on some things that maybe we think are not very harmful, but in fact in the long term they can be a little bit harmful. Okay, so this is the meaning of this verse. We can read it once again. Dukkhameva bhidavanti dukkha nissaranashayaha sukhechayeva sammohat swasukham gnanti shatruvat yastesham sukharankanam pīditānam anekashah traptim sarvasukhaih kuryāt sarvav pīdas chinatti ca yastesham sukharankanam pīditānam anekashah traptim sarvasukhaih kuryāt sarvav pīdas chinatti ca. Actually, Yeah, okay, I can read this, but this goes with the next verse. They go kind of together. So, this refers to the Bodhisattva. The Bodhisattva does something very special for these sentient beings, which are hankering after happiness. So they are sukharankanam. They really, really wish for happiness, and they are tortured, they are tormented, piditanam, in many different ways. So for these people, the Bodhisattva causes satisfaction through all kinds of happiness or pleasures, and he cuts away all of their torments, all of their sufferings. The Bodhisattva, there's a very nice word in the commentary. He's akarana vatsalaha. Is someone for whom other people are dear without any special reason. So this is something that later also is going to be mentioned. This is the special feature of bodhisattvas. Bodhisattvas are kind to others without any apparent reason. So this is the difference between bodhisattvas and normal, usual people. Usual people are kind to others, often either because they feel that, oh, this is my relative, this is my friend, or this person did something for me. But bodhisattvas have everyone dear to them without any such prompting or reason. So these bodhisattvas who are punyatma, who are the very nature of merit, or whose very self is merit, for those people, they're able to give all kinds of both physical and mental happiness. We can also take the word manifold with satisfaction. So the way I translated it here is that okay, I did that. There's a small typo in the translation, but I think you already detected it. There's an F missing through all types of happiness. So we can say that they are often vexed, or all types of happiness. This is by taking the word anekashaha with one or the other. Anyways, maybe it's difficult for you to see what happens in the Sanskrit, but this is something that the commentators tells us. So I think, however, we understand more or less the verse. Is not too difficult. It's again a way to praise bodhisattvas. So the first verse just showed us the situation of people in the world in general, and by this shows us in what way bodhisattvas are going to benefit the world. Okay, we can read it again. Yastesham sukharankanam pīditānām anekashaha triptim sarva sukhaih kuryāt sarvah pīdās chinatti ca nāshayatyapi sammoham sadhustena samahkutaha kuto vā tādriṣam mitram Punyam va tadrisham kutaha nashayate api sammoham sadhustena samah kutaha kuto va tadrisham mitram punyam va tadrisham kutaha. Furthermore, it doesn't just offer them happiness and destroy their suffering, but it also destroys their delusion. So, it joins them, it shows them the path to what should be abandoned and what should be taken up. That is the main problem. So it also offers, the Bodhisattva will also offer a solution to the root problem. The root problem is that people don't know which behaviors to abandon, which behaviors to take up. And the Bodhisattva on the path will offer that kind of advice. So from that perspective, what other good person is there with who is going to match a Bodhisattva? The Bodhisattva is Paravyasana Nivartana Paratantraha. Again, this I think is a nice word. Paratantraha means dependent or activated from something else. So it's the opposite of Swatantra, which means autonomous. So the Bodhisattva is completely dependent or is activated just by the turning away or removing the suffering of others. So the Bodhisattva is not independent. The Bodhisattva's behavior is entirely dependent on that, on the removal of the suffering of others. And moreover, where is one going to obtain a friend equal to the Bodhisattva? Because the Bodhisattva, without any prompting, is going to benefit others. So here the main point is we will never get a friend who is as trustworthy. And also, where will we get who is going to obtain as much merit as a Bodhisattva? And the meaning is nobody else obtains the same amount of merit. So again, all of these are praises of the Bodhisattva, which are meant to encourage us to develop bodhicitta. Okay, now we can read it again. Nashayate api sammoham sadhustena samah kutaha kuto va tadrisham mitram punyam va tadrisham kutaha Krateyah pratikurvita sopi tavat prashasyate avyaparita sadhusto bodhisattvah kimucyatam. Krateyah pratikurvita sopi tavat prashasyate avyaparita sadhusto bodhisattvah kimucyatam. This is a simple verse, like the idea is quite simple, but personally I find it very, very nice. He says that even somebody who does something in return, pratikurvita, when something is done to him or her. That person also is praised. Usually, if we observe that situation in the world, if somebody received an act of kindness and that person is grateful, and when the occasion comes, returns that kindness, we praise that person. You say, oh, that's very good. But then, what about a bodhisattva who is avyaparita sadhu? It's someone who brings about goodness without any prompting. So that's the special feature. Sentient beings might not do something positive to the bodhisattva. In fact, sentient beings might do even something very negative to the bodhisattva. And in turn, the bodhisattva just wishes them all happiness. And in fact, not just wishes them happiness, but does whatever in one's power to bring them happiness and to remove their suffering. So this is the extraordinary mindset of a bodhisattva. Then what can we say about a bodhisattva? Means if even a person that does something in return is praised, then how are we going to praise a bodhisattva? The meaning is it's almost impossible. We won't find enough words to praise a bodhisattva. So that's the meaning. It is somewhat simple, and it also connects to what was just said earlier. Okay, we can just repeat it once more. Kriteyah pratikurvita sopi tavat prashasyate avyaparita sadhustu bodhisattvah kimucyatam. This is where I wanted to stop today. And yesterday I briefly mentioned the 4 sangraha vastu, the 4 things or articles of attraction. So today I wanted to say at least a few words, because I told you I would tell you a bit more about it. It's actually not a unique Mahayana teaching. We find it also in the non-Mahayana. And these are the ways in which other people become, we can say, more or less attracted to the Dharma, broadly speaking, and attracted towards wholesome behavior. What I'm saying now is very brief. It's just a very short explanation, which is in one part of the Bodhisattva Bhumi. But actually, this is a very important teaching. We don't... Usually we emphasize the 6 perfections. But this set of 4 sangraha vastu also are quite important. And in fact, in the Bodhisattva Bhumi, there is an entire chapter for this. So this can be explained very extensively. Now it's just to give some idea. And also to get an idea of the idea of upaya. I find that very interesting, because sometimes the idea of skill in means is, well, maybe it's right, I'm not sure, but I feel sometimes it's used a bit too flexibly. Like in the sense of, okay, we can do something non-virtuous because ultimately we get something good. In some cases that might be the case. The classical examples given are, for example, if somebody comes to our house and tells us that some people are want to kill him, let's say, if we can offer them protection, we get the person in the house, then some people come and they ask us, is such and such a person in your house? And we lie. We say, no, that person is not in my house. So in that case, it's a case where actually it's better to do that non-virtue of lying to protect the life of a person. So that's a case where we might think. But we have to remember that they're really exceptional cases. In the Mahayana Sutras, it is said that bodhisattvas always speak the truth, even at the cost of their own life. So it is very much emphasized that they have truth extremely dear to themselves. So when we see these cases, we have to understand them as exceptional. And I think now you will understand why I brought this up. The context where the four sangraha vastus, things which attract, are explained is to answer a question. The question is, what kind of activity of body, speech and mind of a bodhisattva is said to be taken up with means, with method, upaya, so the same as what we say skill in means? And the answer is, when we use the word method, upaya, in brief it means the four things which attract. And what are they? One is dana, so one is giving. One is priyavadita. Priyavadita means speaking in a nice way. One is arthacharya, which means beneficial activity. And one is called samana. Wait, I forgot the name. Samanartata. It's when one behaves in a way which matches what one says. So these four are upaya because means or method are of four types. So there's four types of methods which are suitable to guide or to attract sentient beings. These four types of method are favoring sentient beings, doing something that favors them, or making sure that sentient beings can accept something, or making sure that sentient beings engage in something, and making sure that sentient beings continue in a certain practice. So dana, giving, is the upaya, the means which favors sentient beings. When a bodhisattva gives, even when he gives the material gifts, sentient beings feel that they have been favored. And then they give some respect to the words of that bodhisattva. So the acts of generosity, the acts of giving of the bodhisattva make sentient beings pay some attention to that bodhisattva's words. We can find a clear example of this in the Jatakas. When you find that a bodhisattva offers their own flesh to somebody who maybe is not a very good person, often that person is very impressed by this act of dana, and that person then realizes that they did something wrong and even asks for the bodhisattva's advice and immediately takes up those words that the bodhisattva tells them. You remember I was telling you some time back the story of Nagananda. You remember the happiness of the Nagas. The story of the Vidyadhara prince. The crown prince of Vidyadharas saves a Naga from sacrificing himself. He was the deputed Nagas are like semi-divine serpents, and this boy was supposed to be eaten by Garuda, and the Bodhisattva managed to go there and disguise himself as a naga, and when Garuda started eating him, after a while Garuda realized that he had done something wrong. Why? Because the composure of a bodhisattva did not change even while he was being eaten alive. And when Garuda stopped, a little bit shocked, thinking that I must have eaten really a very good person. And Garuda knows he's a divine bird, not an ordinary bird. He knows that that is going to give him lots of trouble. When that happens, the bodhisattva actually tells him, there's still flesh in my body, there's still blood coming from my veins. Why don't you keep eating, please? So that kind of dana really impresses Garuda. And then he asks him, he said, I realize I've done something wrong. What should I do? And he receives instructions from the bodhisattva, who tells him, you should stop eating the nagas. Don't exterminate the nagas as you have been doing for a long time. And instead, be generous, etc., etc. We find many jatakas where this happens. The bodhisattvas do some material gifts, even of their own body. And this really impresses the other person, and then they ask for some kind of advice. And then the words of a bodhisattva is going to have great weight. Okay? Then, another one is priyavadita, speaking nicely. And this refers to when the bodhisattvas see that some people are deluded, are confused about a certain topic, the bodhisattvas make them accept reasoning that removes that confusion by speaking nicely to them. So speaking nicely makes it easier for other people to accept reason. So even if we offer a very perfect reasoning, sometimes if we say it very harshly, other people are not very happy to listen. So bodhisattvas should speak in a very kind way. And in this way, other people will listen to the reasonings, and their delusion will be removed. And by doing that, the bodhisattva can remove those sentient beings from something which is unwholesome and can make them take up something which is wholesome by offering that kind of reasoning. And then Arthacharya, yes, it does that also through beneficial. This is the beneficial activity. When he actually, after he shows them the reasoning, he also tells them to engage in that which he showed to be wholesome. Lastly, the bodhisattva has equal behavior. It means that if the bodhisattva tells sentient beings to do something, or tells them that this is wholesome, then the bodhisattva should also behave accordingly. Because otherwise, sentient beings will become very doubtful. They will think that, well, you do not have that kind of faith in what you say, you do not have discipline, you do not have generosity or renunciation, you do not have wisdom. How do you make other people take up these things? So the bodhisattvas should try to make their behavior match what they say, basically, as much as possible. And this makes sure that sentient beings do not lose faith in those behaviors. And this is called upaya. All of this is what is meant by method. All of this is what is meant by means. So, for a bodhisattva, the activities of body, speech, and mind are taken up with upaya when the bodhisattva behaves through these four means of attraction. So, I don't know whether you remember the context where I brought this up yesterday. Maybe not. Yesterday I was discussing how a great master was mentioning that when we have mind training teaching, in some sense it's secret. We don't talk about it very openly, especially we are careful about if we know that people might have very wrong view about it, we just don't mention it. Or even when we mention it, we try to mention it in a very careful manner. And I was saying that there are other ways to actually attract people towards the Dharma. And this is the way. These four means of attraction are the proper manner to do so. Okay, this was just a brief explanation.